sports fans? Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are live on a Tuesday night here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your evening. My co-host and, of course, my partner in crime, Chase, joining us. We got a lot to unpack. What a wild weekend, and out of nowhere, there's a lot to talk about. Luka to LA, De'Aaron Fox now a part of the Spurs, and then of course, and we'll get more into it, but I know you're feeling a type of way with what's happening in Cleveland with the Myles Garrett talk. So I'm really interested to see, what this means for the Lakers, because again, this is a very, very good move for as far as the long term. I'm not sure what it may be, at least in the now. That's the part where I'm still trying to figure that out. But what a crazy Saturday that was.
Yeah, and it's also going to be interesting because we have heard there is workings of trying to get KD to the Mavs.
Yep.
So I know that's going to be possibly a thing that's going to happen. So we're going to have to wait and see how the NBA plays out. But I'm telling you what, you get AD, Kyrie, and KD. Like
maybe this trade wouldn't even look so bad. So
maybe like if that's what it takes to put Dallas over the edge. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of things that are wrong with Dallas. Jerry Jones owns the Cowboys. Dak Prescott was paid $60 million a year.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban was dumb. So, there's a lot of things going on in Dallas.
Well, no longer Mark Cuban. It's now new ownership that's now a part of this after he sold his stake. So that's
when did he sell the Mavericks?
He sold this just I think it was just before the year started. So it was just before the season started. Yeah. So let's go into that. So listen, we are such a caffeinated society. Okay, and we react to a lot of things, and there was so much that we can react to. Now, on any ordinary Saturday night, there were three things that were going on this particular day. So one was the College Football Senior Bowl. That was what was going on. I had to do my homework. I had to make sure I evaluated a lot of these players to see if they can play at the high level, because I love the NFL draft. And I personally love seeing these kids, watch them grow, and really thrive and succeed in life. That's all we want. After that, we had the UFC fight. Israel Adesanya wins his championship. And then after that, it was the classic WWE Royal Rumble. That's all that was happening on a Saturday. And then all of a sudden, boom, here comes the shocker. I haven't seen a reaction like this in like the span of at least a month. Because think about it. Everyone reacted when Trump got into office. Everyone reacted when TikTok literally shut down for a few hours. This caught everyone's attention. And but I mean everyone. I mean NFL players, NBA players, everybody just was shocked by this. I couldn't even believe it. And so the details is Luka Doncic is now officially a Los Angeles Laker after he got traded by the Dallas Mavericks for Anthony Davis. I know everybody was all jumping up and thinking the Dallas Mavericks, Nico, their GM, He's an idiot. He doesn't seem to know what he's doing. Nico Harrison, they should honestly get him fired. But I would try to describe it as best as I possibly could, but focusing on the Lakers on this. The Lakers absolutely won this deal when it comes to the long-term plan because Luka Doncic is only 25 years old. He's a premier scorer. You're probably going to get at least 28 plus points a night. And he's somebody that I think arguably you can't stop from the 3-point to the perimeter. He'll honestly end up just mashing the points. The only problem that he has is that he can't play defense. That becomes a problem. Now, you look at this Lakers roster today with him, LeBron. I felt like this move, nobody truthfully knew about it, not even LeBron. He wasn't even informed. But what this feels like is this felt like the Lakers who were taking advantage of an opportunity that was bestowed upon their doorstep. And that was Dallas sending over Luka. And in the end, they go and get their star for the future because this feels like it's a pass the torch moment. Like they're moving on from the LeBron era and they'll go and get their new star. I anticipate Luka will bring people to Los Angeles. He definitely will. It's a big money market. It's all right now, fixated on international stars in the NBA. But I just, I thought about this all the last couple of days. I had some time to kind of recoup this and try to figure out what was behind the deal. A lot of people thought that Dallas kind of thought emotionally on this move. But to me personally, there was something else behind it. Some of it, and I'll get to Dallas a little after when we have our, right after we have our guest on. But I truthfully am like, I just think, the Lakers, they're ready to move on from LeBron. It was a cool, fun story. You got a chance to play with your kid. But the Lakers are starting to think about the long-term business. And they got their star. Eventually, they'll start getting some players. To me right now, I don't even think that this team is strong enough defensively to man their ground. That's why they need to go and get a big. Maybe you go get Vucevic. Maybe you go get somebody else there, Steven Adams. Whatever you got to do. But this Lakers team looks completely different. And I like exactly with the long-term plan that they have. But this shocked everybody. I mean, I tried to break it down as much as I could. I couldn't. This just came out of the blue randomly on a Saturday night. And all I can do and think about is what Adam Silver was kind of looking into when this detail and this trade went out. Because think about it. I don't think this is any coincidence. NFL is king for their ratings. Major League Baseball is getting better with their rule changes and their viewership after the World Series. The NHL, by the way, they got enough money to where they're expanding for 2 new teams. And they'll have a new TV deal in Canada, and they're going to get brand new money. Where does that leave the NBA? The viewership is at an all-time low. And think about this. Remember when Chris Paul was initially going to get traded to the Lakers and the NBA vetoed it because they knew that they were going to build an empire? Well, here we are with Luka, with the Lakers and LeBron. No veto there. It makes me feel like, is this the desperation plan to get viewership? Whatever it is, it worked. It had everybody all on X, on Twitter, and they, like, even Patrick Mahomes, who's in the Super Bowl, literally couldn't even believe it. He's just like, Luka is a Laker? Like, I'm sick to my stomach. And it was just really classic, in a caffeinated society, just how reactionary a lot of fans can get. But I just thought this was classic. So I stumbled upon, we're bringing on a guest here tonight, but I stumbled upon this, and I think this is really, really interesting, and I'm so excited to break this down because a fellow coach who's been coaching for 30 years, but also is an author of one of his best books that you can find up on Amazon called Be Recruited. It's a great, great find. You can find it up on Amazon. Get yourselves educated. If you got a kid that's in high school sports, especially in football, and you're getting ready to get into the next level in the collegiate level, this is important for not only just for coaches, but it's also important for the parents of the child. So I think this is going to be awesome. But coming up on to here, 30 years of coaching experience and our author, Kevin Stokes, joins. Before we get into the book, because like I said, I think this is interesting. I think this is very informational for both, not just the coaches, but even for the parents. Because we know, I mean, you've got kids. You've been through the processes of even like when you went through the schooling system. And like, is this the right school I want my kids to go to? You know, like when you started out as they started growing up, and then they get to this point now where once they become young adults, there's now more bigger decisions. So I thought about this, and I mean, when you start thinking about coaching in your coaching experience, because I've said this before, the two differences with college and with the pros. College football, to me personally, is so tribal because you get everyone that is invested. They, they donate to the program, especially with some of these boosters and many more. But everyone's invested. I mean, you see it when Ann Arbor's packed up, and then Happy Valley, and all over the country. And then the NFL, of course, is so king because all the games are so good. They know how to match them up. So in your coaching experience, when you look at the college and the pro level, in your perspective, what do you think kind of is more of a better turn in as a coach? More in the college level where you're growing some of these young kids to be grown men, or you're in the pros and you're dealing with all the grown men, but of course sometimes too there's a little bit of a condition behind it.
You make a lot of sense there because they say like in the NBA, a kid can leave. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You can leave like LeBron. He was a product of high school, kid. He never even went through the college process.
Yeah.
And to get to the NFL Shield, to get to that status, they know that maturation is important, right? Growth and development. An 18-year-old kid, like my son, looks completely different now at 20 than he was at 18, and then being recruited at 17. I mean, so I think college is one of the most important foundations through your development. I think now more than ever, I think it's more important to develop these players also into young men, because becoming a player for the Shield nowadays, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of, with social media, there's a lot of things bouncing off a person all the time. So, being at peace and finding cool ways to just deal with the transition. But I think just college is crucial in the development and for the growth of the player, for sure.
And because I started thinking about this, we now have the transfer portal and we have the NIL, which I think really has changed the landscape of college football, because the fact of the matter is, I mean, I'm starting to see, a lot of these young athletes, they're going and getting deals left and right, whether it's local in their state or they're either, some of these global brands. Like, you start looking at Under Armour and Nike and like a lot of them. And so like, when I think of like the athlete, I mean, that's got to be a lot to think about, because the fact is with this transfer portal, it's an NFL version of free agency. Like you're going to get kids that are going to enter into it. And depending on the programs that are honestly going to pick them up, because like Colorado, for example, where I live at here in Denver, I could go right down to Boulder from 40 minutes from me. And the thing with Colorado is that they knew they went into the season where the offensive line was struggling. They went into the transfer portal and they ended up getting a bunch of really good, high-studded offensive linemen. So it's like when you have these kids, there's the recruitment processes, obviously recruiting in your state to then want to come to the school. But then there's the transfer portal part that like you get these players that have been in this process and they're ready to play now. How have you perspected with the addition of the NIL and the transfer portal? I mean, that's kind of more of a challenge in its own, because you're getting a lot of these recruited kids that are going to come in and be potential superstars where they could build organically through the program. And then you get all these kids in that come through transfer portal. How do you think the relationship, in your perspective as a coach, how would you manage a relationship like that where you got these new kids?
Well, relationships used to be the end all be all. That was like the super important thing of the transition to get into college. You
Yeah.
know, back in the day, your coaches would be there for 4 years or more. You know, nowadays it's almost like this free agency within the coaching staff now, from program to program. I mean, let's keep it real. Like Dion, he figured out, he adapted to the new landscape of college football very quickly at
Yes.
a rapid rate. And I commend him on that. That's amazing. He's doing great things out there for you guys. And, you know, at the end of the day, he understands that this is a business too. So, you know, even like, I'll just bring up a quick example. I know of an eighth grader that I've worked with Opportunity Knots. And he's a great kid, great football player here in the state of Florida. He's receiving NIL because they just legalized it in the state for high school kids, but he's an eighth grader reaping the benefits, receiving free gear. Like, I'm not talking like towels and gloves. He's a quarterback, so he needs towels, but not gloves. But
Yeah.
he's getting help. These companies are purchasing top of the line football helmets, getting him multiple, you know, colors to match his team, to give him, you know, just, you know, cleat inserts, right? Cleat
Yeah.
insert company, you know, give them. So that's NIL too, besides just the money aspect. But, you
Right.
know, the money, you know, nowadays these kids, you know, we're in a society where, you know, these kids, they don't get much money. I love it. I think it's a great opportunity for them because they're hopefully investing it in the right way and putting some aside, because football doesn't last forever.
Yes.
So I love that. I love the whole benefits, and Dion, to continue that piece, you know, he was doing cool things. My affiliate Chad McChesney out there in Boulder, Colorado, and Parker, Colorado, he trains phenomenal men out there in the sport of football. He told something on his podcast how, you know, he's taking money and finding ways to help these guys who had children already on the team.
Yeah.
So he is just like hitting every home run on every aspect and reaping the benefits of what the NCAA is allowing him to do.
Yeah, and training, you know, future superstars that eventually will get drafted in the NFL. I mean, it's a life changer, you know, and that's the one thing is like being in the mind of an athlete. I mean, there's a lot of things that do go on. I mean, because the fame's only going to get bigger, but it's how you manage it the best way possible in your life to where you have, you know, I've always preached this in my job where there's a work-life balance, you know, because at the end of the day, you come onto the field, you're going to go to work. But then when you come home, you want to have that life balance, no matter what your background is. So, you know, I think
American
about this.
dream.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we just witnessed the first ever inauguration of the college football playoff. I truthfully think it was a fun watch because the fact of the matter was it wasn't perfect. I do think there's a few tweaks.
Yep.
But I thought this was very entertaining because I compared this to when we get invitations to the Met Gala, right? You got all these programs that are the top of the top best, who they've been there, they set the standard. And then there's the other programs who get the invitation like, hey, you get a free drink wine card. You know what I mean? So it's like you get a chance to come into the club. So when I watched Ohio State and Notre Dame, and I truthfully believe Marcus Freeman is just in the makings of being probably one of the most well-respected coaches. I mean, Ohio State alumni and somebody who's building a very strong culture up in Notre Dame.
Yep, he figured it out.
Yeah, what did you take away from that college football playoff?
I love it because more football is great for me. I mean, let's keep this going till March. I just love it. I know it's hard. The body can only take but so much. But I thought overall it was very impressive because you figured things out this first year, right?
Yeah.
You figured out what worked, what didn't work. You know, maybe reseeding, you know, and stuff like that after the first round, or just to kind of make it more interesting, a little roll the dice kind of situation. But at the end of the day, more football is great. I think when they go to I think they're getting ready to aim to a 14-team playoff.
Yeah.
They may tap out. They may tap out at a 16 or 18 soon, but I think they realized, you know, the first 12 was a good choice. You get to see how it worked out. You know, some games were great, some were not, but you know, that's football at the end of the day.
Yeah, I also do think it kind of does some of the programs a favor, almost like, Arizona State, Boise State, SMU. They get, the national exposure.
Recognition.
Right. And
Yes,
so that now pushes to where that helps with recruitment, especially around your region and the
absolutely.
pipeline. And so I'm excited to see how they respond back. Because honestly, I mean, I have a kid that I interviewed a while back who plays on Arizona State, and this is the first time he's ever been in the playoff. And I'm like, I would love to have him back on the show soon to really explain the atmosphere behind it, because this is a kid that started from Tatum, Texas, who committed to Arizona State, and now he's already thriving. So when I think of coaches, to me, I was coached. I was blessed to be coached by my stepdad. I mean, he coached me in life and he coached me on the field. I played baseball for years. And at the same time, we played adult softball, and he still coached me from it, because the point of it was, you want to see your kids succeed at the end of the day, but you want to see all kids, your entire team succeed. When I look at college football, it's classic, because it's like there's opportunities everywhere, both small and big programs. So in your perspective, and just outlooking college football going into 2025, is there a coach in mind that you think is in the come-ups that could really make an impact next year?
That's a fantastic question, because I actually have a couple in mind. I'm gonna have to start with first. I really, really, really think out the breakout year. He did really good. I think he won 8 or 9 games last year. Is Mike Elko at Texas A&M?
Yes.
I think he figured it out, and he's in the most money pit pool place to coach college football in today's landscape. It is a pay-to-play era. And if you're going to get these top 300 kids, ESPN top 300 or however they're ranked, on 3, 247, I'll give love to everybody. They're going to get after them, and it's going to come with a price tag, unfortunately. And, that's when I also bring up that if you're a top 300 recruit, you need to have an agent.
Yes.
You need to have an agent.
100%.
And then, so that's just where we are. It's the landscape we're in, and it's not going anywhere. And but I think Elko's going to do great. And I'm going to say the second one, I think he's going to be a great opportunity for him as well, because he has now gotten so many great 4-stars. Hugh Freeze.
Yes.
I think he's got his quarterback now. I think he's got the guy that he believes that he can move the ball, press the ball downfield, and make some phenomenal plays with the quarterback they just received in the portal. I mean, when you can figure out your answers and plug and play, as I call it, plug and play. And I think Hugh Freeze figured it out. And Auburn's got money, a beautiful place to play football in Alabama.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And Hugh Freeze, I respect him a lot. I love exactly like the build he has. To me personally, I mean, I'm kind of curious and excited to see what Washington will look like under Jedd Fisch. I mean, I've seen a lot of great things he did in Arizona, and I know it was kind of new to him because Kalen DeBoer going to Alabama kind of changed a bit of the program. But I think Washington will be okay. They come into the Big Ten. They're not, strangers. They at least got a coach that we know is meant for this atmosphere. Give it a little bit of time. I think you'll be okay.
We can't forget about Lincoln Riley, Coach Riley as well.
Yes.
He's also in that hot seat, I think, and I think that he's figuring things out at the Big Ten level now, and how it is a transition from SEC to Big Ten football. I'm gonna be honest. That Big Ten is ground and pound. Okay, the SEC is fast, tempo, move, quick, offense and stuff. And so, I think we got to keep him in the maybe breakout year talk as well.
Yeah, Chase, my co-host down below. I mean, he's an Ohio State Buckeye fan, so he knows all about the build of the Big Ten. And so, you gotta play physical, and you gotta play that ground and pound. So, talk to me about this book, Kevin, because we know a lot about, obviously, your 30 years of coaching, your stripes, but you're also a business owner. You're also an author, and you are moving toward a movement that's more meant for the quality build of the kids and the family, and something too that coaches nationwide need to understand and really kind of
Yeah.
get involved with. So talk to me about this book. Because when you brought it to my attention off the air, I was really curious about it. And I think this was something that was so good. We needed to get you on the show to showcase it so we could spread the
Thank
word
you.
and people know about it. So talk to us. What
Yeah.
do we need to know about this book?
Well, thanks, man. And I appreciate you having me on. I love your passion on what I've created. Opportunity Knocks has come a long way. It's just me and my wife created this thing together. And it started with, going through the process with my own son. I was a coach for so many years. So I started in 1994. Okay.
Wow.
And I was 16 years old. And being on the other side of the table with my son throughout his recruitment process, playing high school football, it gave me a lot of experience on what is needed. I noticed a lot of questions that are always being asked because they knew I was an ex-coach and they're always picking my brain, as they say. And I realized even with my son's recruitment that, you've heard of mega camps.
Yep. Yes, I
Okay.
have. Yep.
Mega camps, they have 30, 40, 50 schools all on one campus, and they've got thousands of kids. Sometimes they'll do an early morning session, then they'll do an afternoon session. Well, listen, I've made a lot of great football coaching relationships throughout the years. Met some phenomenal leaders of men, coaches, champions, unbelievable experience. Because I've always said, if you don't invest in yourself, you can't reap the benefits later and be a winner. So I've been very fortunate. And I've been tapping into my resources throughout my son's process because now I've been on both sides of the table. Okay. I was a coach. Now I was a parent of the process. So then after, during that process, like the mega camp, like I was saying, we met so many guys that I've known for many years. And they said, "Oh, hey, Marcus," and they're meeting them and stuff. But then after my boy's breakout year here in Florida in 2022, made Final Four of his junior year. After the game and everything, crickets. Nobody reached out. It was a very interesting process because when you're almost 6'2", perfect protege style quarterback in today's game, you would think the phones would be ringing off the hook, but they weren't. And I remember I'm like, man, we met so many dudes in the process in our, camping that at the end of the day, I've been there. You meet Jimmy, you finish with Johnny, but then you forgot Jimmy, right? You forgot who you met the first time in the process.
That's right.
So I'm bringing this all together because Opportunity Knocks is more than just a book. Opportunity Knocks is what I've created because of my experience and my knowledge and the process. Book is just one part of it. So I've released it's called the trifecta of high school football recruiting success. So the trifecta is the book is one product. The second thing I created and I invented, and I'm the only person in the world making these things, it's called the Ramp Band. Okay, this is a perfectly safe wristband that kids are already wearing on their wrists. I wear mine every day. It's sweat proof or whatever. But now it has a purpose because I put this QR code on there. I put this QR code on here, and this QR code, you want to know what this goes to, Jake? It goes to kids' huddle film highlights. So now coaches don't have to remember Jimmy's name no more. And when they get to Johnny and Joey and Robert and Bobby, you don't have to remember any of these kids no more because every time you scan their code, it opens a brand new window in their phone. So that coach can take 10 kids' QR codes that took them to the link, go to the hotel room, and go back to their school, fly back way across the country or wherever, and say, "Coach, these are my 10 guys." Boom, boom, boom. Right?
Wow.
Takes the thought and having to remember this because, listen, man, I had a lot of football concussions. I can't remember so much these days. And, so this is the second thing I've created. It's called the Ramp Band. And you can I can do as many as 3 QR codes, one to the huddle highlight, one to your X account, and the next one to your Instagram. Because at the end of the day, if NIL is a big thing, building your brand is very important.
You know what? I got to look into that because I'll tell you what. I mean, I've
Get your
obviously
business
been,
card.
yeah,
Get your football business card.
Absolutely.
Last thing, hold on. Last thing, the third thing.
Oh,
is
even
my
more.
film review. I do a film review with feedback. Okay. You
Uh-huh.
know, being on a recruiting trail with my son, I've seen a lot of kids who are at these big schools, Power Four schools, camping, when unfortunately they shouldn't be. You know, they're going there, they're getting the shirt after saying, "Oh, I camped at Florida State or Miami or whatever." Who cares? You just wasted your time, your money, and your effort. I hope they learned something that day. You know, you always want to be 1% better every day.
Oh, of course.
That's what us coaches say. But I do a film review because then I break down their highlight and I say, listen, young man, I give them great critiques on what they can do to improve their game, their technique, their mobility, their strength, their Twitter profile. I mean, because I had this, it's up here on my screen for you. It's on my Instagram. It's basically the template that I tell kids how to build their Twitter profile because some kids don't know how to do it. Coaches don't teach them. So I do the film review and I give a lot of other great feedback to just let a kid know, hey, stop chasing that P4. Why don't you go to a smaller D1 FCS school or go D2 and camp out, ball out, and take advantage of the portal? This is where we are today, right? Don't let football drive you. You drive football in the direction you want to go. So
Wow.
that's my trifecta. But the book is just one great piece, but it just took me 2 years to create. Me and my wife, we did a phenomenal job. We self-published this thing. You know, it's basically maps out your process from your freshman year through signing day. Like I break it down and it's a fun read. You know, it's got great illustration. You know, it's got great pictures, things, you know, that just kind of, you know, talks about strength and performance. And I talk about my rant band in here and it's just, you know, I tried to answer all the questions that the parents and kids need because they're not getting them from their coaches.
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely important. That's why I'm like, and you know what's funny is it's like the book itself is just the door to open the opportunity
Yeah,
to
great.
learn a lot about what it is in depth you got to know before going through this processes. That's why I love it. I do got to take you up on that wristband idea. I think that's fascinating because at
Thank you.
least that, I mean, that's just so creative. An easy way where I could literally research a player, like, because you know, like to me, I love doing a lot of recruiting. That's why I'm like, when I watch these guys at the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, and they go into the scouting combine, I want to know who's this kid, you know, out of
Yeah,
this
right.
school, and you know, so I do a lot of film because I do some top tens, I do mock drafts, so that way it's more entertaining for the audiences, and the audience gets a chance to see these guys to where they're like, wow, this kid's going to be a household name no matter
Oh,
where he
yeah.
goes at. So I got to definitely take you up on that wristband. That is a very fantastic
Hey,
invention there.
and you know, just to cap off the process with me and myself as a father and my son, that you know he did finish top 10 in the country because of my process. You know, we were also during the COVID era where a lot of camps were shut down. A lot of camps were shut down, so we had to find an alternative process. What do we say in football? Adapt and conquer. You got to adapt to whether it's the scheme, the process, life, whatever. It's just you got to do those two things, and we did. We succeeded. He's off to a great career. He's got great career goals moving forward. I'm really happy to watch it unfold because you know adversity is a mofo, and football comes with a lot of adversity.
Oh, I love it. And you know what? Life does come with a lot of adversities too, you know, and that's what you got to be prepared for. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Kevin, absolutely loved your time up on here. Thank you so much for being
Yep.
able to showcase your brand, the book, and then the entire strategic idea of what it means, you know, to truthfully getting into this process, to helping a lot of kids start their future in the best way possible. And definitely best of luck to future endeavors for your kid, man. He's kicking ass. I cannot wait to see what the future beholds for him, man. So I'm excited for him
Thank you.
and definitely excited for your future as well with this process, man. Appreciate you. Take care of yourself and hope to have you back up on here soon.
Yeah, I would love to talk more. We can talk about football and stuff all the time, man. So thank you for having me on. Great channel you have, and I hope you blow up, my guy.
I appreciate it.
In a positive way, blow up good in a positive way.
Yes.
That's an old school expression. Like that, sometimes I use old school terms, and I don't know if the younger generation, I'm like, that's a compliment, not a.
Oh yeah, it's got to be like a dynamite,
Yeah, there you go. Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, what a great guy. Absolutely loved it. I love that wristband idea.
I do too.
Seriously think that's a game changer because you're right. Not like, CTE aside, and even like, because yes, there's effects to that. But even when it comes to paying attention to these kids, these coaches deal with hundreds of thousands of kids and like camps and practices. They tend to lose track. Let's be honest, they tend to lose track. But with that, they'll get a chance to see the kids' highlights, see their bios and their profiles. That's a game changer, man. We got to start thinking about that. Anytime you're up and around the Ohio area, you just show off your wristband. Hey, check out our show. That's easy. That is by far the easiest way to promote right there. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Oh man. I'll tell you though, like I said, I really am curious with the shape of college football, like for the next few years ahead.
Did Kevin coach in college?
I believe so. Oh, yeah. He's shaking his head. Yes, he did. I got him right back up in there. Yep. 3 years in college.
3. Which one?
Towson University in Baltimore for 2 years. Towson University, I was an assistant with the offensive line specialist there. And then I did a year with George Mason University in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. And then a lot of high school, in middle school football, that's when I was 16. I started doing that age group.
Yeah, I actually went with sports management worldwide to learn the ins and outs of the scouting world and how to scout players and everything. Cause I wanted to become an NFL scout and then eventually work my way up to being an NFL GM and everything. But that's a very competitive industry to get into.
Yeah.
I did pass. I got the certificate and stuff to prove it. But the instructor that we had was a former scout for the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns.
That's awesome, man. That you were getting there. You were close.
I was, and it was more or less just trying to find a college that was going to be willing to hire me on and everything. But just at this point in time, I'm just like, it's gonna have to work my way up from like an internship all the way up into a scouting role and then full time. And at this point in time, with the way the world is, I just can't, take the time and be an intern and everything. I got to get hired in right off the spot. So that's what the downside to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You got bills to pay. And then that's why I left Towson. I was because I know you couldn't coach at the highest level without a college degree. So I was 20. I didn't start my freshman year until I was 27 years old in college. And then I finished my degree, I think I was 34, 35. But, I had to step down a part of the program that I had such a wonderful experience with. I was with, the CAA champions squad. They won back-to-back conference champions. And they went to Frisco to play against North Dakota State. We got beaten in the national championship, but I was a great time to be a part of Towson football. But I had to leave because I had another kid, and the wife's like, hey, you got to get a job. You know what I mean? So you got bills to pay. So I get what you're saying. And certifications are very important. I actually, as long as I was a coach, I'm always a student of the game. And I always invested going to you ever heard of the AFCA convention?
I have, yeah.
American Football Coaches Association. They have them once a year in January, normally around the national championship time. But just continue to invest in yourself. You never will know what may happen. You're a young man.
I'm 28 years old and everything. Live here in Ohio, but it's just I want to get into being an NFL scout and everything, and that was my goal. That's what I was trying to work towards. But like I said, it's very tough to get into, and unless I know somebody that can help me go into the right direction, it's gonna be a needle in a haystack at this point. And because I want to do that, but I can't wait 2-3 years, even 5. I gotta pay my bills now, so it's just. It's tough. It's very tough.
But you can still be active in that field in another way to make money. You'll figure it out. Because if you're passionate, like I am, I created this business that is involved in 2 years. I never upon that it would be created to, you know, I'm very thankful. God bless my wife, man. I couldn't have done it without her. She's the brains, I'm the experience. And we created this, just like you may be able to create something really cool, with your talents, you know what I'm saying? So keep chasing that dream, man. You'll figure it out.
I have a knack for looking at talent the way that more than any other person does. Because like as a Browns fan, like I've seen my fair share of ups and downs. But like when it came time for us to draft, some heavy players back in like 2017 era. I was the first one to look to my friends, and I was just like, "Hey, I want to go get Patrick Mahomes out of Texas A&M over Deshaun Watson." And they were like, "Who is this kid? Like, he's a nobody from Texas A&M." I'm like, "This guy's gonna be something someday." And then the very next year, I'm like, when Cleveland took Myles Garrett in 2017, I'm like, "I want Josh Allen." And then all of a sudden, we took Baker Mayfield. So I'm like, and then. We kept going with the talent we kept going through the draft, and like the following year, I'm like, oh, I want this guy. Like I want Tristan Wirfs instead of Jedrick Wills. Tristan Wirfs becomes a all-pro left tackle. Jedrick Wills is now a backup on the Cleveland Browns. So it's just I'm sitting here looking at talent and everything. I'm like, I got an act to pick it, but people don't believe me until that actually happens.
Well, you got my brain and my wheels turning, man. 'Cause I'm gonna give you this little piece right here, man. I think now in today's NIL era, right, these agents are looking for talent. You being a good talent evaluator, you could go out there, start following some of these kids in your local area, all right, and then getting them turned on. Because I was telling earlier on the interview how these kids that are going to be some of the best, they need an agent. And now there's NIL agents, and they need talent evaluators. So that might be something cool that you can do and still be a part of the life of the game.
I'd have to look up how to do, or I'd have to look at how to get that happening and everything, because a lot of these kids, they get agents in like their sophomore year when they know that they're good enough to make it to the to college football and everything, and then they get like scholarships and stuff like that. So
you just gotta go to the right places where talent is being evaluated, and you'll find it. You'll find it. Maybe you'll find it sometimes before some of these college coaches find it, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, today's development at the college level has really plummeted in my eyes. Us old school veterans sitting on the porch yelling at the yard at whoever's out there wants to listen, but there's different development going on now, which is now I think is so important. Like you have these off-season training specialists, coaches. Like my boys will go to Alabama and work with, I think it's called the QB Country. And I think that's where Leonard from Notre Dame goes to in the off-season. He's going to do a
Riley Leonard.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's so many of these other avenues for people to be developed. And unfortunately, it's just not being done at all the college places, which is now why you see the portal being very active. The portal's being active because they're not satisfied with their performance. They're not satisfied with the season they've had or whatever the situation.
Or sitting for 2 years, because there's a lot of college coaches that, they've like Ryan Day at Ohio State. He had CJ Stroud. And then Julian Sayin comes in right after Nick Saban leaves, and then instead of having somebody else, they started Kyle McCord. Julian Sayin comes in this offseason. Instead of starting him as a freshman, you decide to start Will Howard, and now you're looking at it. It's like, okay, Julian Sayin is going to be a sophomore next year. Now you're going to look at him as your starter. And then you've got Tevian St. Clair, who's a true freshman this year, are going to be coming in there. You're going to be looking at him like you're probably going to be sitting for 2 years before you start again. And then, people get disgruntled because they have to sit for 2 years, and that's why they enter the transfer portal before they finally can get a chance to start.
And I think that's social media. Social media has entitled these kids to feel like they need to play right away. Like my kid redshirted, his freshman year. And it was, challenges. It comes with its challenges because he was the guy, right? He was the 4-star guy. And he fought and he thought he won the job, but he didn't. And he went through his, ups and downs, man. And that's some kids don't like going through that process. You know?
Yeah.
And some of them need it for their true development.
do.
Like I've
They do.
been
Yes.
hearing a lot of things that Arch Manning is going to be a junior this year. He might go back for his senior year just because he knows that he needs to develop more. It's the same thing that Drew Aller did at Penn State. He could have went into the draft this year. He could have probably been a top 5 draft pick and everything, but he himself knew his mechanics need worked. He needed to hone in on his skills a little bit more and hone in it more as a passer. And that's where he, starts to sit here and realize I need to develop more.
Yeah.
And, Jake is my witness, like in terms of me being a good talent evaluator. This past draft, I was the one advocating for Drake May and Jaden Daniels for being the top 2 quarterbacks taken off the board. I didn't really trust Caleb Williams. I thought that his mechanics were sloppy. I thought that his footwork was a little choppy. I thought that he tried to improvise way too much. And now you see Drake May and how he performed. Yeah, he had 17 touchdowns and 12 turnovers, but you're also looking at, he didn't start right away. And, everybody around him was at a subpar level. But now you're seeing the 2,200 yards and the 17 touchdowns. You've got something there with Drake May.
I thought
Absolutely.
it was crazy because it was like, I've had a close friend of mine who sent me film on Drake May. And the one thing that was scary was that I hoped he would be able to outgrow in the pros was because there was a play where he held onto the ball for too long and the defender broke away from the left tackle. And then that's where Drake May literally got stopped. And that's where I was like, if he can make the quick decision, he can avoid that. If he has that pocket awareness where he can make that happen, yeah, it's a lot of the process. And man, the growth I've seen from this kid getting into the pros, I felt very comfortable after that. I was just like, you know what? He's figured it out. Like from what once was in college in North Carolina, in Chapel Hill, like now he's a lot better at it because I think a lot of that is just confidence, it's growth, and sure enough, he outgrew it, and now he's going to be potentially that future franchise.
That's why college development is very crucial, man. Like go once you get to the Shield and you make, you get drafted or undrafted, there's really no development. It's called basically just keeping the iron sharp, or what do they say? Sharpen the iron all the time.
Yes.
Right? You're keeping it sharp, and you're consistently doing your DDDs, your EDDs, your everyday drills, to just continue to stay consistent in your game. But I think, college football is the most important piece of your development. And it's truly showed that Caleb was not developed yet.
No, and I truly think that it had to do something with the way Lincoln Riley does a lot of his quarterbacks. I mean, you had a lot of guys like Baker, he came back for his senior year. Kyler, he was a prodigy and everything. And then now you're looking at Caleb, like, he doesn't have the attitude of a football player. He has the attitude of like, it's a me game instead of a we game. And, I've noticed that with him. And Drake May had the offers to go to like Oregon, Michigan, Alabama. Alabama gave him an offer and he decided to go to North Carolina because that's where his family plays. Like, I can't knock him for that. And there's a lot of guys nowadays that realize like my development would be better if I go back for my senior year. I think Sam Darnold could have been a better quarterback coming out into the draft if he had stayed at USC for a whole nother year. I mean, you got a 20-year-old kid who's a very raw prospect. And that's why this year in this draft, and Jake, he's sick of me talking about it, but I like Cam Ward more than any other quarterback in this draft.
I know, because you get excited about him.
I'm excited because I'm a Giants fan. I'm excited we get him. I hope a Giants fan.
Cleveland's picked before you, so we're gonna.
But I'll tell you what, though, that is a very good thing, like a very good point that you make upon it. Because here's another one that I really am crossing my fingers that this works. But man, Anthony Richardson, a raw talent that I'm hoping that the talent really does develop, because I felt like the process and the build, he's still kind of raw in that. And that's where I was like, that was kind of difficult, where if he stayed another year at Florida, I think he would have been able to at least manage the tangibles that he possesses.
And the thing I like about Cam Ward so much is that like he has the mentality that a football player should have. Those videos that have surfaced with him and Shador, battling it out with each other. Cam Ward has more zip on the ball, and he's also talked about like, you can be a generational talent, but you can't be legendary. I want to be the one that when people look up who Cam Ward is, he's an American football player because that's all he was known for. And he's just like, and then when Shador's just like, you don't want to do anything outside of football, like on your free time, he's just like, no, I want to study football. I want to watch football. Like that's the type of quarterback that you need for your franchise, a guy that's just focused on nothing but football and wants to be a perfectionist in that sport.
Yeah. Marcus says the same thing to me all the time, fellas. I don't know what I'm gonna do without football. I can't live without football. I can't eat without football. And he is on the same boat as Cam Ward. And sometimes those 4-star guys, they end up being some of the elite at the pro level. So
Very
I'm
true.
really excited. Yeah.
I mean, Mahomes was a 4-star recruit and was like the 16th ranked quarterback in his whole recruiting class. So, and now look at him. He's the best in the world.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Those 5-stars just sometimes never pan out.
I know.
It's funny, especially when you think about the West Coast in California. Because I've watched kids, from the CIF, when they're out there in the California high schools, you get 5-star recruits that are out there. And it's like, you're going to trust, not to knock them, but you're going to trust a kid out there in the West Coast to be put in a pressurizing situation if they're playing Ohio State in Ann Arbor in Michigan, or you're going into Happy Valley at Penn State and literally shock the world. It's tough. It's a tough environment there.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen that TikTok video of that one guy that, a 3-star is better than a 5-star. Like he made a whole series about it. He's trying to make it into like a short film or like a movie. It is pretty funny. He's got like 238 parts of it. And it's basically like he pretends to be like this like 5-star running back named Daryl from or that is going to LSU, and like the 3-stars outperforming him at everything, like, bench pressing, health wise, and workouts, play on the field, you name it. And the running backs coach is just trying to sabotage him because the running back coach is like the one that got the 5-star in there. It's such a hilarious bit that he does.
It sounds great. No, I could talk ball. I mean, I could talk ball all day. So Caleb is I'm from Maryland originally, Annapolis, Maryland. And Caleb played in the PG County, Anne Arundel County youth program. So I watched him as a small pup all the way to Gonzaga High School in D.C. And my buddy is one of the defensive line coaches there in D.C. and Gonzaga High School. So, I've been watching him develop throughout the years. He's always been in very good hands as a young man, growing in his development. I know who his QB coach was. He pumps out amazing quarterbacks out of his program. And, he kept following Riley. I'm not sure what Coach Riley's background is. Was he a quarterback?
I believe so. I think Lincoln was. Okay. Yeah, he was a quarterback in the past. Yeah.
He was a QB coach before he became an OC and then a head coach.
Okay. So, he just he kept following the guy he thought was the guy at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he shelled out 3 first-round picks or 3 number 1 overall picks at the quarterback position. He knows what he's doing. He just has a terrible time at developing them properly, unless you stay there one extra year.
But we know there's a lot of politics involved in your guys getting drafted at the NFL level, man.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm going to say the past 5 years, quarterback play has kind of dropped off, I think it's kind of getting a little watered down. That they're trying to pull these college-bred offense guys who are bouncing around, running around, trying to extend plays, which is cool, fun to watch, right? I love it, but it's not transferring to the league because you don't have all that time. You got 350-pound D linemen who are running a 4.5 40. You know what I'm saying? The quarterback's running a 4.8. So there is no getting away from these guys. So I think that's why the NFL, you don't see many quarterbacks hitting 350, 400-yard passing games right now.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see that nowadays. I think the last set of quarterbacks that came through college that were, really good is the 2020 draft class with Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, all of those guys that were in college, and you see the development. And I think that what it was is Joe Burrow's time at Ohio State for those 2 seasons that he was there, learning under Ryan Day, and I'm very critical of Ryan Day. Jake has seen how I react with that man.
Yeah.
But I will sit here and say that he does do a good job at developing talent at the quarterback position and making sure that they are prepared for the NFL by going under center, by using them as a pocket passer, making sure that they don't use their legs as much as they, expect to. And now you're seeing the fruits of the loins of what Joe Burrow is able to do in the pros. CJ Stroud's able to do in the pros. And then Justin Fields, like, he was a runner to begin with, more than he was a passer. But now we're going to see Will Howard go into an NFL system. And I feel like he's going to flourish if you put him in the right system. Like, if you put him with a Sean McVay, a guy who likes the pocket passers and everything, he's going to fit very well in Sean McVay's system because, you don't have to rely on the legs too much. You can just rely on your arm.
Yeah. You got to block the guys. You got to give them time to go through their reads, and that's important in making all the throws, like Jay Milroe. He's just a thrower. He's not Jake. You've heard me talk about this on the TikTok space with Kay Donovan, how he's a hell of a passer. I mean, a hell of a thrower, but he's not a good passer. And they're talking like Shedeur. They're saying Shedeur was today. Somebody compared him to a Burrow. Now, somebody from the Titans said that.
Brian Callahan, who was the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, so that was an interesting statement he made, and that's that.
I don't trust it. I don't trust it. Like that's the thing. Like Shedeur, he's a great decision maker. He has the ability to make the smart moves when it comes to throwing the football. But
he's a hell of a target throw. He hits his targets.
Oh yeah, target.
Yeah, he is. But I think that if things broke down and it got too hectic for him and everything, I don't think that his improvisation skills are going to be what sets him apart. Now, Deion may have coached that out of him and helped him and everything, because obviously with Deion being a corner, he knows a little bit about how the quarterbacks and stuff play in the NFL. However,
body language,
but the body language. But however, we have seen Shedeur operate with the terrible O-line in college. He put up 4,100 yards, put up over 34 touchdowns.
He was hit 40 times.
It's going to be interesting to see if he can go into the NFL, if he can be that guy. But I think
should be fun to watch.
I think him having his dad as his, yes man instead of him making the decision, and then not only that, his focus away from other things. Like Cam Ward, like I said, his focus is on football and football like nothing else. Shedeur, his focus is not just on football. And if I'm going to have a quarterback of a franchise in the NFL, I want somebody that is going to be that perfectionist at that position, just like Andrew Luck was coming out of Stanford.
Yep. Everything in your day is football, evolving around football. Yep. You're training, you're eating, you're walking, you're stretching, you're yoga, you're whatever. Yeah. It's all got to transfer over to the football play. And you're right. Cam Ward does seem like that kind of guy.
Yeah. And I have seen the dude play too many times this past season to where if he makes a mistake, he waved off one of his, coaches before saying I'm not too worried about that. I'm going on to the next play. A fourth and 17 plays, I've seen him convert, by, making time in the pocket and then setting his feet as he's rolling out to the left. He actually sets his feet and throws the ball down the field accurately rather than trying to throw on the run. I've seen him, do a quick shuttle pass on the outside. I've seen this man come down from 25 points down against Cal and come back and win this game on his arm alone. And people want to give him criticism for losing to Georgia Tech and Syracuse. I'm like, the dude had no defense. They put up 38 points against Syracuse and 34 against Georgia Tech. But you can't, expect the man to play defense. So
yeah, they got to do their job too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting seeing these kids coming in, to the draft. And like I said, especially we love it when we evaluate quarterbacks, but it's, like I said, there's so much into the process that goes into it. I don't ever try to, because a lot of this media that tries to compare a lot of these quarterbacks, in that regard, to me, if anything, I kind of see a bit more of Colt McCoy and Shedeur Sanders because of that throw. It's accurate, it's precise throw, and it's right there targeted. That's what I kind of see a little bit more of. But when they try to compare it with these big names, it's like, come on, the kid hasn't even gotten into the level yet. Let's just see how he cooks and develops. And,
Pump the brakes.
Right, exactly. Appreciate you again, Kevin. Take care of yourself, and we'll definitely talk with you soon.
Yeah, thanks for telling me back in, man. Like I said, I appreciate the invite. I'll do it anytime.
Absolutely. Hey, I'll probably be sending gear your way as well, man. It's a good trade.
Yeah, sounds good. Take care, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Got carried away there.
Yeah. No, I truthfully think. So again, there's a lot of the talks about, this trade in particular with Luka and with Anthony Davis. I know a lot of people, like, they were in the spur of the moment because it happened randomly, And so I thought about this with Dallas because, you've seen my video trying to break it down. I tried to come up with the best words I could for everyone in America to just figure out what this process was about. But we talked about the Lakers. I think it works for them perfectly in the long term because Luka's 25. He's got plenty of years ahead of him, and he's in his prime. But when you think about the Dallas Mavericks, I looked at that lineup, and then just earlier, they went and got Caleb Martin from Philadelphia. So it's not like that, and now they're in play with Kevin Durant. So to me, I feel like Dallas, when I saw this, it almost made me feel like in baseball. You know how Bryce Harper moved on from Washington to go and sign the contract with Philadelphia?
Well, he didn't move on. They just didn't re-sign him.
No, they just didn't re-sign him, but they moved on. They were like, we can't get his contract. So once they did, think about the team they built around. They built around a really good bullpen. They had a youngster in Juan Soto, and then you had Anthony Rendon, who was also was on a hot streak. But then there was a bunch of veterans on there, Howie Kendrick and Yan Gomes, several others. Like, I started thinking about Dallas, and the thing that went through my head was I got Kyrie Irving, who's capable of scoring buckets, and he's at the
who is the Steven Strasburg of this team.
Right. And then there's the Klay Thompson, who to me, he may not be a version like he was years ago, but I get the shots, I get the defense, I get some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I remember, I actually talked to his dad in the past, but PJ Washington, he's mixture of offense, defense. He's more the middleman. Then I get to the bigs, Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, and Derek Lively. Like, that is what people don't realize is that I got two bigs that could do the 5 job because Anthony Davis made it clear. He doesn't want to do the 5. He wants to be in the 4. And to me, what I utilize, and I think this is perfect to Jason Kidd's strategy, is that I will have a perimeter attacker and a defender there. But then I've got the guys who can sacrifice their bodies up front for defense so that they crowd more of the basket. So it's so congested because there's going to be 3 bigs there. So, and you swap them in and out. Once Derek Lively gets healthy, there's my second chance shots, my rebounds, and then my opportunities to really defend at the basket. Whereas for Anthony Davis, what's funny about it is they knock him on his injury health. In the last year and a half, he's been playing arguably the best basketball in the last few years.
Yeah.
That's what I don't get about this. So something had to have happened to account for this move. This can't just happen randomly on a Saturday night where, the NFL's king, we're getting ready for the Super Bowl. And then it's like, oh, by the way, Luka's a Laker. The hell? Like, the last time the Lakers made a big move like this was back when they got Pau Gasol to pair up with Kobe. That's the last time they ever made an aggressive move like this. So, I
think what would be bigger news is if you have LeBron come out and say, hey, I'm going back to Cleveland for my final year, and we're going to win a championship.
And pair up with Donovan Mitchell and everybody up over
and honestly, right now would be the best time for him to get a ring.
Oh my goodness. That would just be shocker. Just what we need. Everybody's just everybody's just shocked. You know, you got your blood pumping like way, way high, and it just, yeah. Everybody was freaking out. The fact that you'd get that much shock to where Patrick Mahomes literally is on X and he's tweeting about this.
Yep.
That's pure insanity. So I did, however, want to talk about this. So it is official. And like I told you, Chase, in the last month, that this was a possibility. And again, I was looking out for this organization. So Myles Garrett officially, and after putting out a statement out there to the fans of Cleveland with his future, he's requesting a trade. I told you this from the beginning. The better time to get value for Myles Garrett is right now. He's 28 years old.
29.
And he'll be 29. So that's where I look at the future. And I could definitely use some draft capital for that. I could go get a multitude of pieces for the price of the one package player. I know he's a perennial player, and I know a lot of Cleveland fans are heartbroken because it's the shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? You know, left a lot of memories here with the Browns. But think about it. This draft is so deep. I got Abdul Carter that's right there. We talked about it. Him and Mason Graham and Cam Ward. There's multitude of options that's there. But at least, because I even made this point, you've heard me about the Pittsburgh trade. I thought about this with Cleveland, that if you traded and got the value, there's multiple teams that are out there. So I figured I'd do something from here with at least realistic landing spots in both of our opinions that I think could work. So to me, Myles Garrett, you're is an absolute one. Now we'll go back for back, but we'll get our 5 best, and so that we have our 10. So to me, the number one hot commodity that I think he can work really well at, that have the capital, that have the cap space, that can give him because after this, I think you probably would settle for like a 3-year contract. 4 would be my max. I wouldn't sign a 5. I wouldn't do it because to me personally, 5-year contracts look a lot like traps. That's one thing that if you're young in the career, I would definitely give you a 5-year contract extension. But because of this, the stretch of the money and the carryover, my 4 years would be the max. But generally, I would give at least 3 years because it's still in the prime. Depending on injuries, that's kind of the best fit you want to be in. You don't want to be locked and trapped in this. So to me, one team in particular as my first team would be the Washington Commanders. Daron Payne, I feel like they may shop Jonathan Allen, in my opinion. You go and get more picks, and they may go and get a new, defensive tackle. But at least I got an edge rusher with a competitor next to Jaden Daniels, where they know they got to shape the offense. But defense was a big thing for Washington. There was not a whole lot of defensive pieces. Yes, they got to go and get a corner, but you bring in somebody like Myles Garrett, that is miles of just, and he's in the NFC. I mean, he'd be causing hell for the Philadelphia Eagles. And so to me, I feel like that gives Washington a little more of a fighting chance to make a big move for next year.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I'll go backwards from 5 because I'm going to go, with my number 1 later on. But
Okay.
My number 5 landing spot, I think, would be the Detroit Lions. I think that, right now, I think their Super Bowl window is slightly closing because losing 7 coaches on your roster or on your staff, you're going to have a little bit of setback and everything. The defensive coordinator, we don't know how good he's going to be. We don't know how good the offensive coordinator is going to be. Every piece on offense is coming back this year. A lot of the pieces on defense are coming back, but you pair Myles Garrett with Aiden Hutchinson and then have Zadarius Smith also on that roster and everything. You're going to be looking for trouble, and the Lions have the 4th most cap space to spend and everything. Myles Garrett's under 2 more years of his contract. No money's guaranteed. He is now 29 years old. His birthday was December 29th, so he's 29. And, I think that if the Lions still could make it tough, I think that, having him on the Lions could make a difference, and they could make it to the championship round or even the Super Bowl. But I think their window's closed a little bit at this point. So that's my number 5 spot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that. You pair him up well with Aiden Hutchinson. That's going to be dangerous. My second destination, I feel like that could be realistic, would be the LA Chargers. Personally, he looks and screams like a Jim Harbaugh type player, where he's perennial, he's big, and at the same time, when they played each other, he took Joe Alt off his feet and still got the sack on Justin Herbert. If that's not a sign of respect, if that's Jim Harbaugh, I guarantee you he'd be heartened for that. But because with not a guarantee of the money, they could finagle that a little bit.
He'll take a pay cut if it means winning a ring. He will.
Yeah,
he
because
absolutely will.
Yeah, and think about it. Like Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, they made restructures. They bought into the process. To me personally, like if the Chargers were to do that, of course they're going to end up losing some assets, not a lot of them, but some. But me in particular, I think that you cut your losses truthfully with Joey Bosa because of the cap situation. I think you do that, but you don't. I mean, you may or may not bring back Khalil Mack, but I could also see them to where it may not only just be Myles Garrett, but you got Tully in his 3rd year, Bud Dupree with 1 more year on his contract, and maybe you go out and get a future. Maybe look at that kid at Marshall, Mike Green, and keep this perennial thing, keep it reloading. I think that's the kind of Jim Harbaugh type deal when it comes to his defenses.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, that's a good option. But my number 4 spot, I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers, another NFC North team.
Yes.
I think that the Green Bay Packers, you pair him with Rashawn Gary and everything. Lucas Van Ness has not panned out, but Rashawn Gary is great. But they need help on that defensive line badly. And you pair him with Rashawn Gary and a couple of the other pieces that they got on the Green Bay Packers defense. And then imagine if you can keep Jair Alexander. You've got a top-tier defense in the NFC and in the NFC North that could propel the Packers to win be at the top of the division and win it. It really just depends on what they can do on that offensive side of the ball. I mean, you're talking about a team that took the Niners to the NFC Championship and almost beat them to go to the Super Bowl. So there's a chance that, him going to the Packers could work out, but that's my number 4 team right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, you remember the last historic trade that they made for a perennial player? Reggie White.
Yep.
Philadelphia to Green Bay. If they do this again, not surprised if from Green Bay. My next destination, I think it's interesting because Ohio State alumni, loves a great defense. He's done this in Tennessee. I could see the New England Patriots being in play. And the only reason of this is because they got the money. They got the money to you got enough money in the cap space. You got a trustworthy coach in the building. You do. And to me personally, like we've said this when, a lot of these rookie quarterbacks, right? What do they usually do when it comes to rookie quarterbacks? We saw this with CJ Stroud. I mean, nobody thought Houston would be a playoff team. They thought this would be a project, but they made the playoffs. They win a playoff game. And then what they do the next year, they double down on everything. They got defensive players. They got Stephon Diggs. They got a lot of players. Can we not see the New England Patriots do something like that? I mean,
it's tough with the division that they're in, with the Dolphins and Bills, and the Bills being as good as they are.
But think about that. You got to slow down Josh Allen. Think about that. You got to slow him down because Tua in Miami. But, and then you got the Jets. But I wouldn't even be particularly worried about the Jets as much, only because who knows what their quarterback will be. But I got to deal with Josh Allen twice a year. And New England wants to get back in Buffalo. You know that for a fact. And Vrabel, I'm sure, is probably leaning that towards here.
I mean, that's a good option, but like he stated in the letter that he wants to win a Super Bowl, and he's not going to do that with New England anytime soon. Like, I think that, they have a good shot at making the playoffs next year if they build the roster right. But in terms of the Super Bowl, he wants to do that now. And I think that my number 3 team is going to give him a good shot at doing that, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, Howie Roseman's been a great GM in the league. I think after that Jalen Reagor debacle, locked in and you started picking the right guys. You started getting good free agents in there and guys that have bought in. And like I said, Miles wants a ring. He's had the money. He's had the guaranteed money. He signed a 5-year contract, and his first 3 years are guaranteed. He would literally sign a 1-year, $10 million deal if it almost guarantees him a Super Bowl. And you put Myles Garrett on that Eagles defensive line with Jalen Carter, with who's the other big guy? I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Yeah, Jordan Davis.
Jordan Davis. Yeah, you got Jalen Carter and
Jalen
Jordan
Carter,
Davis.
and
pair Myles Garrett on that.
Very good. Oh my God! It's like there's no stopping the wizardry of Howie Roseman. Seriously.
Yeah. They would be almost a shoe-in to win a championship if Myles Garrett goes to the Eagles, and there's no doubt about it. And I hate to say it, Andrew Berry said that he's already come out and said he's not trading him, not even for 2 first-rounders. And there's been 3 Browns players that have gone on to podcasts and said that they trust in the front office to keep him there, and they think that they can get him to stay in Cleveland. But it's going to be the ownership that's going to have to talk to Myles and figure out what it's going to take to keep him there.
Yeah, it's going to depend on it, but another destination. This is kind of intriguing to me, but I've been hearing some rumors about it. There's a possibility the San Francisco 49ers could be in play. The only reason this would happen is because they actually do have the capital to do so. But of course, they're not re-signing Javon Hargrave. They're going to let some guys go. I think they let Talanoa Hufanga go. Couple defensive pieces, but you pair him up with Nick Bosa on both sides. They tried to do this with Chase Young. That didn't work. But you bring in Myles Garrett next to Nick Bosa, and that pass rush would be scary, ridiculous. Plus, it would be a revival for the San Francisco 49ers after a down year. Of course, they're going to have to make some sacrifices on this roster, but, to me, with the amount of capital, I could see something like that with John Lynch that could be up and in the cards, because especially when you've got Robert Saleh back as a defensive coordinator. And of course, he's going to want his big stuffers up front.
Yeah, that's also another good option. I could see it, but the number 2 option, if he wants a ring, this is almost a guarantee. It's a done deal. It's a no shot and no doubt about it. Slam dunk. I feel like Brett Veach is going to be a guy that would give the capital up for Myles Garrett and give Andrew Berry what he wants. But sending him to Kansas City, to the Kansas City Chiefs, pairing him with Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, that is a lethal trio on that defensive line. And you can almost guarantee that the Chiefs would have the best defense in the league at that point in time. Not to mention with Trent McDuffie in the back, and then you got Bo Milton, the linebacker and everything, and then Justin Reed. All they need to do is get another corner, and that defense could be top tier and unstoppable. But yeah, that's my second destination, is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, just so we need the reign to continue with Kansas City if they get Myles Garrett, man. It's like, who's really going to stop this team? I think my last destination, this is just an interesting one because of the cap situation. I also do believe that this could be a pivotal piece. They don't need a ton on defense, but I could see the Raiders be in play. Only reason of this is because you've got a veteran coach in Pete Carroll. You've also got Chip Kelly as your offensive coordinator now. And Patrick Graham, they like him in the building. And so you pair him up with Max Crosby, and you've got Christian Wilkins coming back from injury with Robert Spillane and a couple others on that linebacking core I really like. What do you need? Corner, probably, wide receiver, offensive line. They're not that far away. I think, honestly, it would cause havoc in the AFC West, and it would be classic because think about it. Pete Carroll loves defense, and he's the kind of guy that I think could vouch for this. Because knowingly, you watch the Legion of Boom with that whole entire secondary. You saw at least their pass rush. They had great linebackers. Could we see Legion of Boom 2.0? Maybe a possibility if you get someone like Myles Garrett.
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad choice, but again, he wants to win a ring. You're not going to do that with the Raiders. They don't even have their quarterback situation figured out. They don't have a lot of their offense figured out. They need more corners and safeties and everything. Trayvon Moehrig is a free agent, so like you're going to lose a lot of defensive pieces, and it's just, you know, I don't see it. But I'm going to go with an honorable mention before I get my number one, and that's the Buffalo Bills. I could see the Buffalo Bills making a good play for Myles Garrett as an honorable mention team. I know that Brandon Beane is stubborn, and he does not like to try to get rid of the capital that he has because he values draft picks. But if Myles Garrett's that missing piece to get Buffalo over the edge over Kansas City, you go out and get freaking Myles Garrett. Like, come on. You can't let a go of a guy that is the best defensive player in the league, no doubt about it. But my number one team is the same as your number one. They got, you know, the second most cap in the league to spend. They've got a chance to possibly get Denzel Ward in this package too, because Denzel did say that he wants to stay with Myles wherever he goes and have the possibility. So I think the Washington Commanders are the best option for them, because the fact that they went to the NFC Championship this year, if it had not been for all the mistakes, that game would have been a lot closer than what people think. It'll be the missing piece. You pair him with Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen on that defensive line. He would be what they wanted Chase Young to be in that massive disruptor at the edge there. All they need to do is fix the secondary, get a better safety duo, keep Marshawn Lattimore, get another corner in there, and if they can possibly get Denzel Ward or even Greg Newsome in this trade, I could also see that as a lethal, you know, team, because giving up 2 first-rounders, a second-rounder this year, a fourth-rounder next year, and then let's say like a third or a fourth in 2028 and stuff as well. I could see that happening, and I could definitely see it being, you know, something that Andrew Berry would jump on if Myles doesn't really want to be here.
Yeah, wow. Denzel Ward in the middle of that package, boy, that's insane.
He has come out and said that he he thought about requesting a trade when Myles did, but since Myles said he was going to stay, Denzel was going to stay, and he has said like on record saying that he would love to still stay with Myles Garrett. So I'm pretty sure wherever Myles goes, like if he was to go to Washington, Denzel would go to Washington.
And think about this: they got that young corner, Mike Sinristal, who I really like, out of Michigan, and they went and got Marshawn Lattimore. You know, he may not be much, but yeah, I don't know. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm sorely disappointed because the fact.
I mean, Myles Garrett is a Texas native. He was born and raised in Texas. His mom is a Cowboys fan, and I would have put the Cowboys on the list, but like he wants to win a ring. He's not going to do that with Dallas, and not to mention they put all that money into Dak Prescott. They got to pay Micah Parsons yet. Like, yeah, Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett would be a deadly duo and everything, but you ain't got enough money to spend on both of those. And I think that if Myles Garrett was guaranteed a ring, he would go back home to Dallas and to Texas to play. But I don't think he's guaranteed a ring if he goes to Dallas. I mean, he's not even guaranteed an NFC championship at this point if he goes to Dallas. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, their expectations are so far low, and it's embarrassing, and it's really heartbreaking for a lot of Cowboy fans.
I find it hilarious.
So do I. I just can't even believe that America's greatest institution is now starting to fall apart. It's really just sad.
It's nice seeing the Commanders and Eagles going to be at the top of the division, and if the Giants can figure out the quarterback position, oh my gosh, we could probably see the Dallas Cowboys in 4th place. That'd be hilarious.
Oh yeah, that would just be. I'm telling you though, like I said, the only team that I know that could be in play for the AFC West, I just have a feeling I think the Chargers might do something.
I could definitely see that. I could see that being a Jim Harbaugh move. I could see that. I could see them wanting to go younger at that position. I do think that Myles Garrett wants to play until he's like 36, 37, 38 years old. And it's just a matter of if he can keep his physique and everything. I think he definitely has the capabilities to, because the dude is not slowing down anytime soon. Not anytime soon.
That's what I'm saying. He's a perennial player. I mean,
I think that if you got him on Kansas City, like they would have a 4P, 5P, 6P.
Oh God, just what we need. Just 4P, 5P. Oh hell no. I don't even want to envision that at all.
Like, dude, everybody hates Cleveland for getting Deshaun Watson and everything. They would hate Cleveland even more for giving Myles Garrett.
I just think with the Deshaun Watson deal, that was more the Haslams than anything else.
It was.
A lot of people, like, again, I don't want to harp up on Cleveland because I know we're wrapping up, but I told people, I'm like, this makes things look bad for Andrew Berry and for Kevin Stefanski because they're both very smart people in that building. But when you have the Haslams who's got their hand in the pies every single time, it's ruining, the bill. I mean, think about it. How did we feel about, David Tepper when it came to trying to build Carolina Panthers? He was doing the same thing. Incompetent, desperate, trying to get the team in the playoffs. Like, let the thing cook. And now you're seeing Bryce Young in the best version of himself. Give this puppy at least some time to cook. And especially, too, when he's building around young guys like Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, like, he will be fine. You just have to give an opportunity to let him build. And if you do that, if you get a young quarterback, right? So this was initially my thought when I thought of the Myles Garrett trade was it's the same thing I even felt about with the Pittsburgh one, because you've heard me on the Pittsburgh trade, where I felt like if you trade TJ Watt, I'd go get Abdul Carter because I'm not losing an edge rusher for nothing. I'll get another one that I know is the best in the country. And then I would go and reshape my offensive line, maybe go and get a quarterback, at least in the second or third round, get a running back, more than anything else, because the last thing you want to do is you want to be a team that spends the most money on defense. And then you miss out on winning a playoff game. I want to win a playoff game. That's where I want to be at if I'm Pittsburgh. But if I'm Cleveland, hear me out on this. If I traded away Myles Garrett, I think initially, and you've talked about this before too, briefly. So pick your brain at this. Abdul Carter, Kyle McCord, you reunite him back into Ohio. Ugh. I think you go and get a running back, maybe a Travion Henderson, who's somebody more elusive, and then you go and because here's the other thing I'm also thinking about too. If this is part of a rebuild, who else is also talking about this? Joel Bitonio. He's talking about retiring if this is a rebuild. So I go and get my offensive guard. You know what I mean? So
you did. They got Zach Zinter last year, the All-American guard from Michigan that played very, very well at his position.
Oh, Zinter's great.
I agree. I think that you should go Abdul Carter at number 2. If you were to trade Myles Garrett to the Washington Commanders, we could get their first-round pick this year, and let's say they throw in the second for this year as well. You get with that next first-round pick and everything at the Commander spot, you get Ariante Ursary, the tackle out of Minnesota. Yep. Then with that first second-round pick that you got, and that 33rd pick up Jackson Dart, and then with that second round pick that you got, you go ahead and go pick up Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins or Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. And then now you've got 3 offensive pieces that you've built. Now you're going into the third round with 2
now. Yeah, because think about it. Baltimore is all about winning in the trenches. So now you've got Cleveland thinking about that because, Pittsburgh, they're more based upon their defense. So if that's the case, you want the team that's going to be smash mouth football because especially with that. Cincinnati, it'd be curious to see what it is, but I don't think that's going to be enough for that defense to contain this kind of ground and pound, game. Because this is the other thing. Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy. Maybe if you went into the late rounds, you get a wide receiver.
Tez Johnson in the third round with that
67th pick. Yeah, Tez Johnson's a very, very good option. Who's another one is the kid who I think could be a steal. But that
Harold Finn.
No, the kid from Miami, by the way.
Xavier Restrepo.
Restrepo, dude. When I watched his film, the kid's got very, very good cuts. I think he's a steal. If you get him in the late round, not a bad idea.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this is what people don't realize. I understand your mind is fixated on perennial players. But if I could get 5 impactful players for the price of 1, I mean, did the Rams just not do this with Aaron Donald? They got Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse. And then they go and get, Jordan Whittington from Texas. Anything like this can happen. This is why, but you know what? This is why America won't make me the GM. because I'm just like, I'm thinking of the future. I don't have a
Or if you wanted to take
I'm thinking of
the picks that Washington would offer, like if they offered you a first rounder this year, a first rounder next year, and then let's say they offered you a second this year and like a third rounder for either next year or the following year. Let's say they don't take a quarterback this time, and then they go with like Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins or Joe Flacco again, and then they re-sign Jameis as a backup. They go with all veterans this year, and then you build the roster with like Tez Johnson and Trevion Henderson and Abdul Carter, and let's say you go with that Commanders pick, you go and get Chevion Ravel, that East Coastal Carolina corner, who is phenomenal. And then you build that side of the ball. Well, now all of a sudden you've got Tez Johnson, you've got Trevion Henderson, you've got a left tackle of the future, you've got Abdul Carter, you got a corner of the future and everything. Now you go into the draft next year, you got your choice of Arch Manning, you got your choice of Drew Aller, you got your choice of Nico Iamaleava, you got your choice of Garrett Nussmeier if he decides to, be good next year. Yeah. You got your choice of any quarterback that you want because you got 2 first-round picks that you could trade up and get it.
And mind you, that's going to be a team ready to contend. Whereas a team, they're retooling so that they get back into contending. And that's going to do Kevin Stefanski a favor because then that means his job will be locked in instead of him being on the hot seat. So I like it. I think at the end of the day,
a lot of superstars don't stay with their team for their whole career.
They don't. I mean, think about it. The one mistake, and because there's been plenty of mistakes. I mean, look at it. Herschel Walker goes to Minnesota, and Dallas just got their Super Bowls with Aikman and multiple others that were very impactful. Just this past one, Tyreek Hill goes to Miami, gets his money. Kansas City, they are very smart. Brett Veach ends up getting capital, and they win 2 Super Bowls without him. This is business 101. You can't.
And Diggs doesn't stay with the Vikings. He goes to the Bills, and then they get Justin Jefferson. There's just so many superstars that don't stay with the teams that they have.
Reloading. They're constantly reloading. Think about it. They moved on from Adam Thielen. Oh, Jordan Addison, perfect. They reload. It's all a business model. If you could focus on the consistencies, then everything else will be simplified. I mean, think about it. The Chargers got complimentary 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks for the players they literally got rid of. Michael Davis, Kenneth Murray, and a couple others. If you don't tell me that's smart businessing for a GM, I mean, because you're trying to collect so that way you go and get impactful players to go and make a competitive run. There's a method to this business that will make you like a Brett Veach, a Les Snead, and multiple others in this league. They'll make you well respected because Howie Roseman just does wonders every time with Philadelphia, and it's really hard to explain it.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Thank you everybody for being on here. First of all, a very special thank you to Kevin Stokes. 30 years of head coaching. The book is incredible, and like I said, a lot of experiences with the recruitment process. I really loved, having him up and on the show, getting a chance to really pick his brain at the new age of college football and just recruitment as a whole. Outstanding stuff. Absolutely loved him having him on here on the show. Show tomorrow, we got a lot to talk about. De'Aaron Fox, now with the San Antonio Spurs. That's going to be, an interesting outlook. I think it makes the Spurs more interesting. But we got a lot to talk about from there. Plus, Super Bowl previews all the way up until Friday's show, because that's where the entire season that's been fiery ultimately comes down to an end this weekend. And Friday, Super Bowl prime prediction. You do not want to end up missing that out, folks. With Chase and myself, enjoy the rest of the night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care, everyone.